right. Genesis chapter 1. All right, so let's slow this down. Before we talk about what happens in Genesis chapter 1, we need to define some terms. Because if we don't define them, we'll accidentally import modern assumptions and into ancient texts, and Genesis 1 will start to sounding like something that it was never meant to be. So let's start there. Genesis. The word Genesis means beginning or origin. The book is not just about how things started physically. It's about the beginning of everything that matters. The creation of humanity, sin, covenant, and God's relationship with man. God, in Hebrew, Elohim. The Hebrew word used here is Elohim. It is grammatically plural, but it is paired with singular verbs. That matters. It communicates majesty, authority, fullness of power. Not multiple gods. One God, vast, complete, lacking nothing. Christians later recognize this as being consistent with the Trinity. But Genesis does not explain that yet. It simply presents God as eternal, supreme, and unquestioned. Word create, Hebrew, bara. This word is only ever used of God. It means to bring something into existence that did not exist before. Humans shape, humans form, humans build with materials. Only God creates. The heavens and the earth. This phrase does not just mean sky and dirt. It is a Hebrew way of saying everything that exists. The visible, invisible, the physical, the spiritual, all of it, everything that exists. Next term, formless and empty. This phrase means unshaped, uninhabited, unfinished. Not evil, not chaotic in a moral sense. Creation is real, but it is waiting for order and purpose. The deep. The deep refers to primordial waters. In ancient cultures, water symbolized danger and chaos. Genesis makes a bold claim. God is not threatened by it. He rules over it effortlessly. Spirit of God. This word, or phrase, the word is ruach, I believe. This word can mean spirit, breath, or wind. It indicates God's active presence, not an impersonal force, but God himself at work. Light. Light exists before the sun. That tells us something important. Light here is not merely a scientific phenomenon. It represents order, revelation, and God's command taking effect. This is an important word. Good. When God calls something good, he is saying it is functioning as intended. Creation is not just beautiful, it works. Image of God. Humans alone are created in the image of God. This means representation, authority, moral awareness, rational thought, creativity, and relational capacity. It does not mean humans look like God physically. It means we reflect him in function and purpose. Dominion. Dominion does not mean abuse. It means stewardship, responsible rule under God's authority. Day, the Hebrew yom. This word can mean a 24-hour day or a defined period of time. Genesis structures these days carefully, each with evening and morning, emphasizing order and rhythm. Okay, now, with those definitions in place, let's run through the story. The story of Genesis. Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 begins before time as we understand it. There is no argument for God's existence. There is no explanation of where God came from. Scripture simply begins with this assumption. In the beginning, God. God already is. Before space, before time, before matter. And God speaks. Creation does not fight back. Creation does not resist. Creation responds. Day 1, light. God says, "Let there be light," and light exists. God separates light from darkness. He establishes time, rhythm, and distinction. Evening, morning, day 1. Day 2, the sky. God separates waters above from waters below. He creates the expanse, the sky. This is God organizing creation into domains. Again, evening, morning, day 2. Day 3, land and vegetation. Dry land appears. Seas are gathered. Plants grow, each according to its own kind. This matters. Creation has order and boundary. Things reproduce according to design, not randomness. God calls it good. Evening, morning, day 3. Day 4, sun, moon, and stars. God creates the lights in the sky, not as gods, not as objects of worship, but as tools. They govern time, seasons, days, years. In surrounding cultures, the sun and moon were gods. Genesis says, no, they are created things. Evening, morning, day 4. Day 5, sea creatures and birds. Life fills the waters and the skies. This is the first time God blesses living creatures and tells them to multiply. Life is meant to flourish. Evening, morning, day 5. Day 6, animals and humanity. Land animals are created. Then something different happens. God pauses, and God says, "Let us make mankind in our image." Humanity is created as male and female, equal in value, distinct in role, together reflecting God. Humans are given dominion, not ownership, but stewardship. And God looks at everything he has made, and he calls it very good. Evening, morning, day 6. So when was this written? Genesis was written approximately between 1400 and 1200 BC. This places it in the time of Moses and the wilderness period of Israel. That context matters. Israel had just come out of Egypt, a culture full of violent creation myths, competing gods, and cosmic battles. Genesis directly confronts that worldview. No battles, no rivals, no bloodshed, just God speaking. So who wrote Genesis? Genesis is traditionally attributed to Moses. It was compiled under divine inspiration, drawing on ancient oral traditions shaped to teach Israel who their God truly is. This chapter is structured, intentional, teaching focused. When did these events take place? The beginning of time itself. There is no human timestamp because time begins here. Scripture treats creation as real history, not metaphor or myth. Later, biblical writers refer back to Adam and Eve, and creation as foundational reality. There are connections to the rest of the Bible. John chapter 1 begins with, "In the beginning." That's not an accident. John identifies Jesus as the Word through whom creation happened. Psalm 33 says creation came by the word of the Lord. Hebrews 11 says that the universe was formed by God's command. Colossians 1 says that all things were created through Christ and for Christ. Genesis 1 is not isolated. It is the opening movement of a single unified story. Key passages to look at: Genesis 1:1 establishes God's sovereignty. Genesis 1:3 shows creation responding to God's voice. Genesis 1:26 through 27 reveals human identity and value. Genesis 1:31 declares creation very good. Evil is not original. Sin is not foundational. Brokenness comes later. So why Genesis 1 matters? Because it tells us God is eternal, the world has purpose, human life has value, order is intentional, meaning is not invented, it is received. This chapter sets the stage for everything that follows. And if we misunderstand Genesis 1, we will misunderstand the rest of Scripture. So, that's Genesis chapter 1. Read it for yourself. Sit with it, question it, wrestle with it, and walk with me. Up next is Genesis chapter 2. May the truth set us all free.